Welcome to the chaos sector. Let's go over this one more time because we will stop everything in its tracks until someone provides a legitimate answer to these questions. And I'll tell you right now, the real supporters know that the chaos is not wasting time, nor are we trying to cause drama. This is about information, so the fake supporters are out there on an island all alone. And these are the people we need answers from, since they are leaving comments. Speaking for, get a clue. We're just going to ask the questions again. If you all are claiming get a clue, never claimed it was Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra, then whose white Hyundai Elantra would it be then? Are they a suspect? Does get a clue consider them a suspect? What about the Ford Fusion being spotted at 4:07 a.m.? Have you asked him about these vehicles in that Linda Lane surveillance? If so, what did he tell you? Did he tell you, quote, he doesn't know if those vehicles are involved or not? Come on, give us some insight. Our audience asks these types of questions all the time. They share their thoughts about information, evidence, speculation. We can't get to everything, but they will tell you we share our thoughts right along with them. So surely Get a Clue has offered some insight to the vehicles he claims were in that surveillance. Oh, we should go check his channel to find out what he thinks about the white Hyundai Elantra? You know what? That's a good idea. Now Get a Clue has a video where he claims the suspect had a 2017 to 2018 white Hyundai Elantra parked in the neighborhood. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not what he claimed. Sorry for that, I don't want to misrepresent anyone. Now this video was uploaded about a month ago, so not much would change in someone's view or opinion unless some groundbreaking information or evidence would come out. The video is titled Idaho 4, it's a 2017 to 2018 Hyundai Elantra. The problem we have here is you have to examine everything from the lens of a frame. Don't lose focus of that. Now, we'll get back to the actual video because that's a key element. But before we do that, Get a Clue had a bit to say. Here's a description of the video. Quote, I have been informed this footage is from CJ's trip to Moscow this past November, so it's a year after the massacre. This vehicle may or may not have been affiliated with the neighborhood in 2022, and for all we know, the owner of this vehicle may not even live in the neighborhood and could have just been visiting when CJ took this footage. Considering that, I would say it's highly doubtful it is suspect vehicle 1 per the PCA. Also, this needs to be cleared up now, and people need to stop spreading it around because it is disinformation. The white car in front of Jack D's house is a Chevy Cruze, not an Elantra. Maddie also had a white Chevy Cruze that can be seen in footage of 11/22 in the days subsequent to the massacre. There is no doubt about that whatsoever, so stop it. It's destructive to the case to spread misinformation and disinformation. Also, stop with the 22,000 Elantras nonsense. In all of Idaho, there are probably only a couple hundred at most white Hyundai Elantras between the years 2011 to 2013. 22,000 is more like a nationwide number, unquote. Now, first off, we all make mistakes, and if Get a Clue is referring to this white vehicle, then, sir, you are wrong as well. This is not a Chevy Cruze. Let's examine a side view of a Chevy Cruze to determine it's not a Chevy Cruze. Let's take one from the first generation, then one from the second generation. The vehicle in the video has an inverted style, meaning the rear passenger's window trim points inward. In the first-gen model, the window trim has an everted style, meaning the trim points outward. The second-gen model also has the everted style, and the lower panel, or the quote rocker panel, is not the same. In the second-gen, the rocker panel has a curved flare to its design, while the vehicle in the video has a straight line design. Mind you, that curved flare design is in all second-gen Chevy Cruze models. Although the first gen has a straight line rocker panel design, the window trim is not the same, and lastly, the rear bumper rises deeper than that of a Chevy Cruze. So it's neither the first gen nor the second gen Chevy Cruze. The car guru is wrong, right along with the people he is criticizing for claiming it's a Hyundai Elantra. How is the chaos correcting the person who proclaims to be the car expert? Wow, this is amazing. Now, if he is referring to the other vehicle, which was spotted in the body cam footage, well, he would be wrong there as well. But we were wrong also. In our simulation series, we assumed that was a white Hyundai Elantra. I hope he wasn't sending a subliminal shot at us. But we spent a lot of time examining that vehicle and just couldn't identify it. We were being a bit stubborn, to be honest, and just gave up. I know. Examining both images, we can see the difference in taillights. We didn't know what it was because it just wasn't clear enough to determine a specific vehicle. We compared Fords, Chevrolets, Toyotas, Hondas, Nissans, Acuras. I mean, you name it. It was actually a bit frustrating, and we were like, what the hell is that? We focused on the taillights more than anything and said to ourselves, well, if it is another vehicle, we are tired of searching. And the reason that vehicle was hard to identify is because it's a vehicle that is well known, but the average person doesn't have it, like a Hyundai Elantra. That vehicle, parked in front of Jack's house, is a Subaru Impreza. Yep, when reading this post and get a clue mentioning a Chevy Cruze, it brought back that episode examining the vehicle in the body cam footage. We tried once again to determine what the vehicle was, but this time we had come to the conclusion it wasn't a Hyundai Elantra in retrospect, based on examining the Elantra a bit more over this investigation. Searched and searched, searching many car makes by sedans, focusing on their rear bumpers, and lo and behold, we found a match. And the Subaru's taillights and rear bumper match up exactly with that vehicle in that body cam footage. Examining the body type in the side view, it all matches up. Car length, window trim, headlights, rocker panel, taillights, and rear bumper all match up. That model appears to be a 2017 to 2019 model. We had felt a sense of accomplishment, to be honest, because the vehicle didn't appear to be a typical vehicle in society. Of course, Subarus are not as common. That's why it was hard to identify. In fact, this could also be the vehicle in the rooftop video as well. Examining the overhead view of the Subaru, it sure looks like the same body frame based on the window trim, width, and length. Yep, that's the same vehicle. So it's not a Hyundai Elantra, it's not a Chevy Cruze. Everyone was wrong, including the car guru. Get a clue. So, Mr. Car Aficionado, you make mistakes as well, sir. All of those defending him, he was wrong about that vehicle, but was telling others to stop spreading disinformation, as if he had the facts. He claimed without a doubt it was a Chevy Cruze. Well, not only was there a doubt, it wasn't even close to being a Chevy Cruze when you actually examine both vehicles. And just to throw a jab at the car guru, it's not spelled Cruise like a vacation cruise, it's like Hector Cruise. But anyway, let's move on. Now in this video, Get a Clue claims, well, he doesn't claim anything actually. Basically, examined the vehicle, which was in fact a Hyundai Elantra. He presents the possibility that it was the same white Hyundai Elantra without actually saying it. Yeah, that type of elusive way of investigating. Now to his supporters, would this be the white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance? We spotted that same white Hyundai Elantra some time ago as well, parked next to a blue truck. We also focused on the pearl white Hyundai Elantra on Elm Street, which was parked near the housemates' sororities. We examined a white Hyundai Elantra that Jack's father had, which matched the description of the alleged killer. The point here is that we have been racking our brains throughout this case, trying to put pieces together. We're not doing this just to examine something. We're doing this to get to the truth. And Get a Clue does not appear to be wanting to do that. We understand not everyone will be as forthcoming, but you are examining vehicles, timeframes, surveillance. This is a part of investigating, and you have a theory about what you are examining. Again, he titled the video Idaho 4. It's a 2017 to 2018 Hyundai Elantra. This is alluding to that vehicle being the suspect, but at the same time will not even state it's a possibility. In fact, in his description, he literally states, quote, "This vehicle may or may not have been affiliated with the neighborhood in 2022. And for all we know, the owner of this vehicle may not even live in the neighborhood and could have just been visiting when CJ took this footage. Considering that, I would say it's highly doubtful it is suspect vehicle 1 per the PCA." Unquote. You would say it's highly doubtful it's suspect vehicle number 1. Based on what information or evidence? You don't know if that vehicle was there in 2022 nor before 2022. So where is this so-called high doubt coming from? You can't have a high doubt that it was suspect vehicle number 1 in the PCA. And then that's an entirely different issue. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth. That's the problem. In the video, he asked, quote, "Could this be the same vehicle? Perhaps it well could be. It's possible," unquote. Yet in the post, he states he highly doubts it's the vehicle. You can't say it's possible, but you highly doubt it in the same breath. Highly doubting it means you have some sort of evidence that would convince you it's not the same vehicle. such as the vehicle being owned by a senior citizen or someone who just moved into town after the murders occurred or some shit, which makes it highly unlikely that it would be the same vehicle allegedly lurking around that night. You understand? Just leave it at it's possible, because that covers your doubts as well. Don't claim it's highly unlikely to be the suspect without any information or evidence that supports that doubt. And he can't say it's based on the year of the white Hyundai Elantra being from 2011 to 2013 in the initial report. Oh no, buddy, because he himself claimed to arrange the alleged white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance of 2011 to 2020. So if he were to say, no, the PCA has the wrong year range of the Hyundai Elantra, then he would be lying, because he also has the same year range of 2011 to 2020. We have the receipts. We're only going by his words. That's why you should always be careful in what you say, because it can be used against you later on. But he may have gotten used to just saying things without being challenged for it. This is why everyone who supports him has come to this channel to defend him, but you can't defend against something he said. He states that Moscow PD spotted a white Hyundai Elantra on Indian Hills Drive, again near the A&W, and throughout the neighborhood cameras. They didn't identify a white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance. You know that, right? They described it as a, quote, light-colored vehicle. It's inconclusive in that surveillance. All other so-called surveillance evidence has never been released, because they don't have a white Hyundai Elantra nowhere in surveillance. Moscow PD claimed to obtain surveillance from Koberger's apartments, yet nothing has been released from those apartments. Not sure if Get a Clue has been following, but the very reason a white Hyundai Elantra is being discussed is because someone identified that vehicle in Pullman, not by any surveillance in Moscow. And if he doesn't know this, then he's lost within his investigative work, because he claims to identify a white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance, which is based on someone identifying a white Hyundai Elantra in Pullman, Washington, not Moscow, Idaho. You want to know when that specific vehicle was so-called spotted? On November 29th, it wasn't the Linda Lane surveillance, it wasn't the security camera from the neighbors, and it wasn't the gas station surveillance. Nothing from Moscow identified a white Hyundai Elantra. Moscow PD visited Pullman to Koberger's apartments after he was identified as the owner of that vehicle, and they obtained surveillance from those apartments. None of this was officially reported in the mainstream media. It was dumped in articles that you had to research to find. Get a clue. Do you know who would have identified a white Hyundai Elantra? Batman. That's who. Oh, get a clue. Ask, who the hell is Batman? What the hell are you blabbering about? Batman is the so-called private driver who claimed to spot Koberger's vehicle on December 7th and submitted his vehicle along with so-called other white Hyundai Elantras through the tip line on December 10th. Okay, and? What does that prove? It proves the very reason you have a video spotting a 2017 to 2018 white Hyundai Elantra is based on Batman. Now, if you're paying attention, Get a Clue, and even his followers, here's a great clue. Batman was searching for a white Hyundai Elantra that Moscow PD had been looking for. Yet on December 7th, oh, you guys are going to love this. December 7th is the day that Moscow PD publicly had reported that they had a make and model. What does this mean? It means, where did they identify a white Hyundai Elantra from? Because it wasn't from any surveillance in Moscow, because they never reported they spotted a white Hyundai Elantra in Moscow, which prompted them to ask for the public's assistance in finding. Moscow PD, based on what was publicly reported, had identified a make and model on December 7th. But the chaos knows, of course, that they already had a make and model on November 29th, and more importantly, the owner of that make and model. Then the dreaded gas station surveillance so-called screenshot was released, as the gas clerk was basically searching for a white Hyundai Elantra also. On November 15th, they obtained the Linda Lane surveillance, yet they couldn't identify a make and model. It was described as a light-colored car, so the white Hyundai Elantra was never identified during this time frame. It was in another state, Pullman, Washington, where the identity of the vehicle was so-called spotted. But here's the devastating question. Where is the make and model coming from in Pullman that is linked to Moscow, Idaho? Someone would have to have been in Moscow who stayed in Pullman to identify the make and model. Furthermore, they would have to be specifically in that neighborhood to spot the alleged white Hyundai Elantra near the victim's home. Oh, guess who this would be? Batman. Batman was the so-called private driver, so he was in Moscow and had dropped the girls off, right? But Kohberger wasn't even in Moscow at this time, and Batman had already left the neighborhood in Moscow by 3 a.m., right? So if it's not Batman, how did someone in Pullman spot a make and model? But we're going in circles with this, because Batman is searching for a make and model around December 7th that Moscow PD apparently had identified as the suspect, yet never reported that they had a make and model only until this December 7th timeframe. In other words, how could they be searching for a specific vehicle without having a specific vehicle to search for? Are you guys understanding this madness? WSU campus police had so-called spotted a white Hyundai Elantra on November 29th, which is even earlier than the December 7th timeframe. Mind you, before December 7th, there was no vehicles being submitted because there was no identity of the vehicle to be linked to. So how is WSU campus police searching for a white Hyundai Elantra if there was no specific vehicle to search? This is fucking out of this world. Batman lurked around and gave that vehicle to WSU campus police. They then gave that vehicle to Moscow PD. But of course you would ask, why would Batman submit white Hyundai Elantras on December 10th if he had already gave WSU campus police that specific vehicle on November 29th? Come on, you have to think deeper. This is a cover-up. He did this to make it appear he was doing a good deed in trying to track down a possible suspect. That's why he's Batman, lurking in the shadows fighting crime, but in this case, he's a part of the crime. Based on his interview with Law and Crime, he claims to stay in Pullman, 1,200 feet from Kohberger's doorstep. He would be the so-called private driver for Kaylee and Maddie. Now, how in the hell could he identify the make and model of a vehicle in Moscow if he stayed in Pullman? Where would he identify the vehicle to even specify it was a white Hyundai Elantra? There was no surveillance released during this time. The only way Batman would identify a white Hyundai Elantra as the suspect's vehicle is he would have to be in the neighborhood during the time the murders occurred and spotted the white Hyundai Elantra fleeing the scene of the crime. And he spots the white Hyundai Elantra back in Pullman and says, oh shit, that's probably the same white Hyundai Elantra. Yeah, but then Batman becomes suspicious his damn self because he had dropped the girls off that night and somehow was still hanging around the neighborhood from 2 a.m. to approximately 3:30 a.m. and up until when the murders occurred. Looks like Batman can't snitch on this white Hyundai Elantra. Authorities would wonder about him more because he was still there for close to 2 hours after he dropped the girls off. Anywho, he couldn't know it was a white Hyundai Elantra, but get a clue. Would need to get a clue. We're here to help. Moscow PD had obtained Linda Lane surveillance on November 15th. This would be 2 days after the murders. That surveillance, by their own admission, did not identify a white Hyundai Elantra. It was described as a light-colored vehicle. Stay focused, we're giving you clues. November 29th, WSU campus police identified a white Hyundai Elantra, which of course was Kohberger's vehicle parked in his apartments. Now stop right here. For WSU campus police to inform Moscow PD about this white Hyundai Elantra, this would mean a white Hyundai Elantra was identified as the suspect's vehicle. But from where, though? Fucking Batman, but it gets even deeper. They then asked the public for their help in spotting a white Hyundai Elantra. Batman, in his interview, claimed to submit white Hyundai Elantras to Moscow PD. But wasn't that why Batman submitted those vehicles? Nope, you have it backwards. That was a part of the frame. But here's the most damaging blow to Moscow PD. How could they be pretending to just get a make and model of the suspect on December 7th when they had already obtained a make and model by WSU campus police on November 29th? Oh, some would say Moscow PD didn't want to give the make and model of the vehicle early on because it would give the suspect a heads up on their investigation. Nope, nice try, but nope. How could they even have a suspect to even track? Remember, they had no suspects in the beginning. How could WSU campus police even look into this make and model if it weren't for someone basically claiming that this was the vehicle driven by someone responsible for the murders? A lead before the lead, right? Put it this way. In Moscow, someone spotted a white Hyundai Elantra heading out of that neighborhood. they call the authorities and give a specific make and model of the vehicle leaving that area during the time frame of the murders. That vehicle is identified as the potential suspect, right? Moscow PD puts out a public alert about the vehicle, and WSU campus police spots a white Hyundai Elantra on November 29th. Reports the vehicle to Moscow PD. They look into it. In this scenario, it's common to track vehicles that match the description of the suspect. The difference, though, is the vehicle was identified from someone in Pullman, not in Moscow, and definitely not from the neighborhood. How would WSU campus police be looking for a specific make and model on November 29th when the vehicle wasn't identified yet? So the vehicle in itself is not even confirmed as the make and model to even search for. He was framed by Batman, who gave up his vehicle to WSU campus police, and Moscow PD not only obtained the make and model, but the most important link to the frame is his identity. Then that identity was revealed, as his DNA was found on the button of a knife sheath. The point here is that there was no make and model Moscow PD identified to justify WSU campus police and Batman to all submit as the suspect's vehicle. Get a clue? Are you figuring this out yet? The very reason you so-called identified a white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance is coming from a conspirator framing someone in Pullman, and that becomes the make and model of the suspect. I don't have time to break all of this down again. Get a clue doesn't dig this deep, that's okay, but if we are focusing on the alleged killer's vehicle, you will be outgunned against the chaos due to not having that information or evidence. If you did have it, then you wouldn't claim the chaos is presenting wild and outrageous speculations because it's all centered around that very information and evidence. Anyway, let's continue. Get a clue said it's highly doubtful, so you are assuming it's not the suspect's vehicle. Not based on any, get this, evidential analysis. You're not basing that on any objectivity. It's your opinion, which is an assumption. But you don't do that, remember? If you have a brain, you assume things, you have opinions. It's just the key issues for him. Like with the Ford Fusion, I'm just going to keep drilling that home. Draw you in, then push you away. This is how damage control agents operate. Spark intrigue. Oh, the audience views get a clue revealing the killer's vehicle. Nope, he just showed a white Hyundai Elantra in the neighborhood. A vehicle to the audience. Allude to it potentially being the suspect, then states he highly doubt it's the suspect's vehicle. Claim he spotted a white Hyundai Elantra in the Linda Lane surveillance, but it's up in the air as to whose vehicle it is. Claim to spot a Ford Fusion in the Linda Lane surveillance, but once again it's up in the air as to whose vehicle it was. But the agitating thing with this person is he plays this quote, "I just got here, what's going on?" mind game. You claim the Ford Fusion couldn't be the unmarked vehicle because it had a 911 call around 4:15 a.m. Now this is the problem. First of all, you're rationalizing the scenario that it could have been circling the apartments from 3:30 a.m. to 4:07 a.m. That contradicts your so-called evidential analysis by your own thought process. Then that very time frame is irrelevant to a 911 call at 4:15 a.m. That would be about 45 minutes later after the time frame in question, you see? The focus is on the time frame from after 3:15 a.m., which the unmarked cruiser had finished with the citations, up until 4:07 a.m., when you yourself claimed a Ford Fusion was spotted in that surveillance. Anyone viewing your content would ask this very question. You're spotting a Ford Fusion, which was the same make and model of the unmarked cruiser. This vehicle was in the neighborhood that night, left Taylor Avenue around 3:15 a.m., in which we don't really know where they went after that, because there isn't any other body cam footage released of this so-called 911 call about someone stealing a sign. In fact, they would have released that body cam footage as well. It was all claimed to make it appear they weren't there at the time frame of the murders. Is everyone paying attention here? Now, if it seems we're going in circles, yes, we're playing duck, duck, goose right now. Going in the same circles Get a Clue is going in, avoiding our inquiries. Can we suggest that Get a Clue claimed to identify a Ford Fusion, after many, including the Chaos, had claimed it was the unmarked cruiser? Well, we scanned through his videos, and I can't seem to find a video examining the Ford Fusion in the Linda Lane surveillance. But he so-called examined a white Hyundai Elantra and the alleged Chrysler 300. Where is the evidential analysis of the Ford Fusion? Isn't that vehicle just as important in that Linda Lane surveillance? Oh, let me guess, don't really want to bring too much attention to that specific vehicle because it's the same make and model of the unmarked cruiser, which basically eliminates every other vehicle allegedly spotted due to the purpose. Yes, the purpose. The authorities would be circling around. We've been wrong about things. Get a Clue has been wrong about things. Heck, at some point, everyone has been wrong about something in this case, but that's not the problem. It's the deception. These questions will naturally come along with your claims, sir. I don't think he and his followers understand that. We are held to the same standard. You leave them feeling confused, as you may state you don't believe Kohberger is the killer, but claim a white Hyundai Elantra was spotted in the surveillance. It doesn't matter if it's a different year model or any of that. The fact that you are claiming to spot the same make and model and color is leaving your audience in a confused state. You claim a Ford Fusion was spotted in that surveillance, but shuffle your feet away from acknowledging the possibility that this vehicle was circling those apartments during the time frame of the murders. And even with this recent video, you title the video as if you have spotted the killer's vehicle, but state it's highly doubtful that's the suspect's vehicle in the PCA. The point to this episode is if you ask the chaos about the Linda Lane surveillance. Here's the response. No vehicle can be identified in that surveillance. You can spot similarities, but there's no real conclusive evidence. Since we came to the conclusion that the murders were covered up, then obviously the authorities had to have been notified prior, and that would be the unmarked cruiser circling the apartments. It's a theory, it's not based in any real evidence visually, but it's supported by what has been broken down and also the body cam time frame. Some would say, well, Get a Clue deals with the facts. He has proven many things while you present theories. Well, first of all, we're in totally two different worlds, to be honest. Our investigative work is going to be centered around theories because of what we are breaking down. We are actually investigating with the information and evidence at our disposal. Theories will naturally be generated as we obviously don't have the actual concrete evidence, but we have our facts as well. We just broke a lot of them down, such as the frame job Batman and WSU Campus Police, Moscow PD, and of course the FBI have all been a part of. And second, how can you say that about Get a Clue when he claimed it was a Chevy Cruze spotted in the rooftop video when it was actually a Subaru Impreza? And he had the nerve to call others out for spreading misinformation and disinformation for claiming it was a Hyundai Elantra. At least there is relevance to that claim, as Jack's father owned a white Hyundai Elantra. Many just assumed that was the same vehicle, and yet the car expert would have presented the same misinformation and disinformation as he claimed others presented. Seems his facts are not always facts, hey? At the end of that video, Get a Clue states, quote, "Come to me if you want a car identified." I find that hilarious, when in the post of that very video, you got a vehicle wrong, in which you criticized others for getting wrong. Some claim the chaos is arrogant, sharp-tongued, whatever. We're not arrogant, maybe a bit sharp-tongued to those who cause problems, but to criticize others for something you yourself got wrong is a whole other level of arrogance. Did he apologize to those who he criticized? Or did he even care to check if he was right about that vehicle? I'm assuming not, since it was, quote, without a doubt, a Chevy Cruze. To all those who were deemed disinfo agents and hurting the case due to misidentifying that vehicle, you have been forgiven. You made a mistake, as we had also. Now go Get a Clue. Apologize for insulting your integrity. Okay, that's enough. Hopefully everyone can just accept this for what it is, because after what we've broken down, we have. This is the Chaos Sector.